So, hello and welcome to the CFMU 93.3 FM radio show and Apple Spotify podcast, The Coolest Journey, where my guests and I explore intersections between health and environment with tips and tools for everyday living so that all of us can better our lives. I'm your host, Hélène Caron. Nature therapy. You probably have heard of this. Green and blue therapy? My very first guest on my show, Dr. Mark Christie from Cumbria University in the UK, talked about his journey and green therapy in nature with greenery like trees, parks, mountains, etc. More specifically, what his research has uncovered in terms of benefits. Today, Dr. Mark Christie is back, and we'll be talking about blue therapy this time and its numerous benefits, since Dr. Christie's research in the last years has been focused on this topic. But wait a second, what is exactly blue therapy? Without further ado, welcome back, Dr. Christie.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me back. I love the background. I love your picture in the background there.
That's my
Stunning.
favorite. One of my favorite pictures is Tom Heyerdahl's ice pool in Ottawa. And Tom, I interviewed Tom for my podcast, and it was made available actually last week. So I think I'm thinking about the dates here, but I think it was January. I'm counting in French, mais c'est from January 23rd. So if people want to go back and look at that episode, it was a really good chat. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
you're
you,
getting a
you'll
lot of
have.
blue therapy there, aren't you? Because look, you've got your blue sky. Wow. You've got the blue water, but look at that blue ice as well. The
That's
reflection
right.
on that ice is absolutely awesome, isn't it?
That's right.
Wow.
Actually, Tom was saying that the blue dye that he uses on the ice to make it more visible is one of the it's is the most environmentally friendly color and
Right.
dye that he could find. So,
Wow.
so Dr. Christie, since we've last spoken, you have
Yeah.
now a new title because before you were in the process of obtaining your doctor title, and now you are officially Dr. Mark Christie, correct?
Well, actually, I've been a doctor since 2022,
Oh
Dr.
my
Mark.
goodness,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
I knew. No, no, no.
No,
Oh
that's
my
okay. It's
goodness.
probably I confused you because, because it was a PhD by publication, it was dependent on a series of publications. So I probably gave the impression that maybe that was still in progress. But no, I actually got awarded it 2022. So I've got my lovely picture somewhere. Oh, it's not here. Anyway, it's me getting the certificate,
It,
with your binary at Carlisle Cathedral. Yeah,
uh,
so
it's a
yeah.
it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I mean, I know
It's,
because I did two PhDs and they're both ABDs, all but dissertation. And I mean, there are different ways of obtaining a PhD, so
yeah,
it's a big
yeah,
deal when we get to that point. And that certificate is so much more than just, it's not
yeah.
just a PhD. It's a
Oh, it's a lot of
testament to,
hard work, a
yeah,
lot of hard graft. But yeah, so going back to your point, what is
yeah,
blue therapy?
that's
Well,
right.
yeah, well, off the back of what we spoke about, there's a lot of synergy, of course, between green therapy and blue therapy. So you could argue it's very, very similar. But as we might sort of get into conversation about what I found with the research I've conducted about people's immersion in blue spaces is there's a certain uniqueness about that over and above what you might experience in green space, which is what we spoke about last time. So, of course, we can talk about blue therapy in terms of the physical benefits, the mental benefits, the social benefits you get, and all the different mechanisms for that as well. And it is very much about being in natural blue spaces, and that's where you reap the most benefits from that. And of course, the theories that I spoke about last time, attention restoration theory, for example, where you're restoring the mind by being immersed in nature, whether it's green space or blue space, applies here, of course. Stress reduction theory, we're managing to detoxify the stress from the
Right.
being in those kind of natural, spaces. And then this notion of the biophilia hypothesis where we've got this sort of innate hardwired connection to nature. Now, in some people, that's really overt. So in other people, it might be a little bit hidden and needs a bit of reawakening. Okay, but essentially, we derive a lot of benefit from being in nature, as we have done through the millennia. So you've got the same benefits, you could argue, from green space and blue space. Perhaps the difference is when you think about, and I think about myself as a fell runner, used to run up these mountains and, shirt off, sun on my back, wind in my face, all that hard graft to get to the top of the hill, so all the sweat and, the aches and pains to get there. But then that moment of euphoria at the top when you've got this beautiful vista around you. And when I started to get problems with my hip, I couldn't find anything that quite replaced that. So that was when I was 50. So 13 years ago, I had to give up my running, my beloved running. So it's a bit like losing a partner of 35 years, losing that. And
And
I
and
tried other
it
things.
and it's not just a partner, it's also an identity. And I'm saying this
Absolutely.
because I had to give up running as well after my car
Yeah.
accident. And that was
Aha.
in
Aha.
2014, and that was 11
Yeah.
years, 12 years
Wow.
ago now. We're in 2026.
Yeah.
And I was trail running
Mm.
every week, right? And it's part of how we identify. That's how we meet people.
Mm.
That's it's not just the runner's high. It's
No,
who we are.
who
And so
we
when we
are.
lose that, like for you with your hip, and you lose the ability to go
Mm.
up that mountain, with
Yeah.
your without your shirt and feeling the sun
Yeah.
on you, it's not just the activity, it's the identification that we lose, and that can be very disturbing, very
Yeah.
shaky for us as well to go through those periods of time until we find another way to cope. And so for you, did you turn to blue therapy?
Well, bit of a convoluted journey to that, but you're absolutely right. You feel bereft, don't you? And what worked for you to de-stress, coming back to some of those theories about attention restoration, stress reduction. I did notice in that period after having to give it up, it's strange things like you see a runner going down the road or and you get quite jealous about it. I can't do that anymore. So that was stressful. But just the very fact I couldn't do those things, again, there was a massive dent to your confidence, all sorts of things. Psychologically, it really did knock you for six. So your equilibrium, if you like, your psychological equilibrium was not quite where it was. And so it was actually post-COVID. So we're winding forward several years now where I've been trying other things like cycling and archery and things like that. So still out in green spaces, but it never quite gave me the same buzz, same adrenaline, the same euphoria, and the same sort of sense of identity as you've correctly mentioned there before. Um, and then, yeah, post-COVID, I started. I mean, I've always been a swimmer, indoor pools, but I thought, because there was a bit of a trend, wasn't there? Everyone started to get into open water. Certainly in the UK, it became a big thing, and I'm sure it did in other parts of the world. Um, and then, yeah, so I went along, had some lessons, and that was a story in itself. Um, but yeah, never looked back. Wow, what an experience! And I think when I've interviewed people, they've had very similar feelings about it, about this, because as I say, I used to get those lovely experiences and those lovely reinforcements, if you like, from the fell running. But now I'm getting it through blue therapy. But there was an added element to it. Yes, when you're running through forests, you're on the top of the hill, surrounded by these beautiful vistas. But there's something about being actually immersed in the water, surrounded by this water touching you. All right, you can say, well, you get that with air and wind and everything. Something about being enveloped is really
Hmm.
special, and a lot of people have said the same. But also the view that you get. So you're at eye level with the water and you're looking up now at these mountains and trees around you and everything else. But also you've got the underwater vista too, which, all right, sometimes in, some waters it's quite dark and you can't really see too much.
That's right. And
Now
it's not
there's
just the vista, it's also the sea monsters or the lake monsters that
All
are
right, well, we
around
can get
us,
into that
right?
as well, yeah, because it's not necessarily anxiety through, as I've found when I've interviewed people. I've had one or two sort of moments where I thought, oh,
Yeah.
um, but nonetheless, there is that uniqueness to it, and I think that comes out in all the interviews that people just feel that being enveloped, almost being, well,
Hugged.
that's that you're getting from the water as well, particularly if you've got a physical impairment. So me with my osteoarthritis and my hip, and then ultimately I had my hip replacement in 2020, just before COVID hit. So that was that, in a way I needed some activity there to get myself back into a regular activity pattern. But then just recently I've had another one done, okay, about 7 weeks ago. So I've actually got into quite withdrawal symptoms now. Haven't been in the water. It's lucky you going in your lovely ice water there the other day. But yes, I'm
Hmm.
hoping to make my comeback and get all those lovely dividends again. But those other mechanisms, the sights, the sounds, the feel of the water around you, the smell of the water as well. I mean, I've been in, the sea, you've got the lovely salt spray, haven't you? But I've also been in water where there's a bit of a mineral tang to it, where you're up in one of these mountain lakes. So there's so many unique elements to
and
open
and
water.
and the density, the viscosity, there's sometimes it's clarity, sometimes it's turbidity, sometimes
Yeah,
it's but the smell not in a good way. So you turn around and you don't go in,
there's
right?
pollution. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
so just to specify, so when we talk about blue therapy, we're talking about in the water, but are we also talking about on the water and around the water, or is it just in the water?
Well, that's a really good point because, a lot of the conversations I've had, the interviews I've had, for example, would really accentuate the social health that you get from being part of a group. So if you think, I don't know if you actually, well, I think you do, don't you? You're in a sort of group there in Canada and you go swimming together, don't you? And I'm a
Yes.
member of what we call the Windermere Blue Tits. What a great name, And it's largely a female group, actually. I mean, I'm one of about two or three token males in the group of about 40 or 50 women. Um,
It
but
just as an aside, the blue tits and the blue bells, it's
The
like
blue,
they're
the blue balls is the men's version, yeah. And we might come to that later. There's the Edinburgh Blue Balls, for example, and there's a lovely group of men I met called the Tyneside Ice Guys. So there's another version, but maybe they'd like your scene behind. Um, yeah, so there's that immersion in the water, but there's so much of the benefit you get as well from that nervous laughter with the group before you get in. Okay. And then all that lovely banter, well, banter in the water, but banter out of the water as you finish. And then, I mean, I'm a sucker for always having a lovely cup of coffee and a nice big slice of cake afterwards. So yeah. So the cafe afterwards is almost like is a necessary component of the overall experience. So, but yeah, and we've had all sorts of fun with it. Like your Christmas Day swim or your New Year's Day swim, where we're all dressed up in various outfits. I've got my Father Christmas kind of budgie smugglers and that.
oh my goodness. And
So
sometimes we make it with the hats, right? We make it
yeah,
fun and
and
we
we've
make it
got
light.
the Santa hats on, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's so much of it. So coming back to your point, yeah, absolutely. If you think of the package, there's so much to it.
Right.
And yeah, so out of water, in the water, you're getting all these elements which make for a whole holistic experience, which is, truly beneficial. Yeah.
And just in general, when we talk about blue therapy, let's say out of the water, could we say that we get blue therapy if we walk by a river and we look at the river? Or
Yeah.
and another question for you then, if we are in the desert and we
Mhm.
look at the big expanse of blue sky, would that also be considered blue therapy?
You could argue that it's landscapes, it's vistas. I mean, you think about green spaces, quite a few published papers about where, say, in urban areas, if you bring in, say, and it's just a concrete, you know, vista, but you add in a tree-lined avenue, okay, and that can psychologically boost the local community just by having some greenery installed. So we're seeing a lot of greening of urban centres, or even like sedum roofs, on tops of, big buildings and that sort of thing. There's place up the road that's done that, like a shopping arcade, and they've got, ceiling roof to it. So you've got those elements of greening. And yeah, so there's a lot of research about the psychological uplift you get just by having greenery around you. And you can argue, well, I'm not interacting with that necessarily. Well, you kind of are, because you're looking at it and you're taking it
Yeah.
in.
In Vancouver over here, we have a lot of tall condo buildings.
Yeah.
And we can see downtown that some of them, depending on the levels and how they're built, or how the architecture is, at
Mm.
some levels you can see that there are trees and sometimes palm trees up there,
Mm.
right? And it's always
Mm.
a contrast in between the man-made steel glass
Mm.
building and this beautiful piece of nature that
Mm.
somehow survives because a human is
Mm.
taking care of it, right? It's not
Yeah.
its natural environment, but it is something that I find brings peace. I find that
Mm.
the man-made materials is a little dry, or
Mm.
it doesn't necessarily bring a warm, fuzzy feeling, but when I see the green, it brings that, for me, that warm, fuzzy feeling. And I'm assuming that's what it does for most people, right? Is that why they say that if you add an alley with green trees in there, that people feel better? Is that why?
Yeah, the uplifting mood, and then the knock-on effect there in terms of de-stress and less psychological, conditions. So in terms of lower levels of depression, all that sort of thing. So there's been quite a few research studies on that. And as you say, what powerful combination, even if you're not a swimmer, say you're walking around a lake. So you're getting the lovely greenery around you, but you're also looking at that beautiful, the sun shimmering on the lake and that side of thing as well. So fish jumping out the water, the cormorant landing on the rock in the middle of the lake, So yeah, there's so much to get from that. And yeah, so yes, you don't have to be an active participant. However, we do know that the more active you are in nature, the more benefits you receive from that, because just naturally being physically active, you're going to get all those extra benefits, aren't you? And
Mm.
then, of course, with you know swimming, outdoor swimming, of course, then you're getting all into that physiology and the psychology of being immersed in what we call cold water, because naturally, natural bodies of water are typically quite cold. It's not like your indoor swimming pool, which is what, 28 to 30 degrees
Oh,
centigrade.
yeah.
You look,
I don't know
yeah,
how warm they are where you are, Dr. Christie, but over here they would be about 24, 25 for recreational. For more competitive training pools, they could be at 22, sometimes 23, but rarely, because at 22, it's already a little warm. And 21, 20, 21, sometimes 19. And if you can find a 19-degree pool, you know that that's a good, like you can
yeah.
really work hard in that pool and not overheat, which is the problem with the 22, 23, 25, 28 is way too hot. You can't,
Oh,
you,
I don't like it. I mean, I go back to an
no.
indoor pool very, very rarely now. But when I do, I think, oh, I don't like this. And it's
Mhm.
strange actually. I've never had cramp outdoor swimming in a lake, in the sea, whatever. The only time I ever had cramp in my calf was in an indoor pool. It was 28 degrees centigrade. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was too dehydrated doing a mile swim in an indoor pool. So
and there's
yeah.
something to be said about the water as well in a pool versus outdoor swimming. I find the
Mhm.
water in a pool is dead. But when we're
Mhm.
outside swimming, there's something alive in that water and we can
Mhm.
feel it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
someone has once told me, yeah, of course it's alive. It's got some bacteria. You're gonna die from it. I'm like, oh my goodness. No, no, no. I'm still alive to talk about it. But the chlorine is That's a cancer-causing agent, and we know that.
Yeah,
We have to find a better way of keeping our waters clean in pools. But
yeah,
when I'm back in that water, like you, actually, we had 2 days where sewers were overflowing here in Vancouver, so that
yeah,
affects the water quality. I was
yeah.
in the pool, sure enough, like you, big calf cramping, and within, I don't know, a lap or two. So coming back to open water swimming, I think the benefits are multiple, right? Who knows what we're getting from the water? I'm going to just say it's multiple benefits, not just some type of bacteria and germs. You were talking about before how there's that pressure of the water on us, right? That's the hydrostatic pressure.
Mm,
And I mean, physiologically, it helps with the blood circulation, lymphatic fluids, and all of this. But really, from an emotional point of view, or I don't want to say psychological, but I feel like it's an embrace. The
mm,
ocean, and for me, I'm in the ocean, but it would be the same thing in a lake. The water is embracing me. It's making me float. It's
mm,
supporting me, right? And
mm.
I've had that conversation so many times. It feels like I'm back in Mother Earth's womb,
Yeah. Wow.
floating.
I
The
love that.
nervous, yeah, right? The nervous system
Yeah.
is disengaged because we don't have gravity affecting us, and we move in ways that we can't move on Earth in the water. And so
Yeah.
it becomes much more of a spiritual practice, this
Hmm.
open water swimming, and we get to look at everything around us, and whether it's a blue sky or a black sky,
Mm,
it's pouring rain or
mm,
it's a big snowstorm.
mm.
We are one with the element, and because
Oh,
we're in the water,
yeah.
embraced and supported, it
Mm.
just feels so good. And then I'm talking about this, and I feel that elation, right, coming back to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Is that how you feel? Is this something that's coming out in your research?
Oh, absolutely. And I've just found a lovely couple of quotes which I thought I'd love to share with you. So I'm going to try the share screen in a second. But yeah, I mean, as I say, we're painting these lovely experiences, but of course there are some discomforts which we could perhaps talk about as well. But they're very minor, I find. They're irritations maybe that you might get, which certainly for me don't detract from the overall experience. But
Yes,
let me
for a
see if I
few,
can share.
let's just put it this way. For a few people, hypothermia is not so much of a just
Yeah, no,
cramp
that's
it
true. Well,
out.
that's yeah, we can get onto that one as well. I'm thinking about sometimes the discomfort you get just wading in, or you've got the sort of awkward sort of the rocks or the stones under your feet or whatever like that. You can get those kind of experiences as well. And some people hate being touched by underwater flora, like the reeds touching their legs or things like that. So, yeah. Now let's see if can I find this document here. Oh no. Well, okay. If I can't. I'll just read it out to you. Oh, hold on. Here we are. Here we go. Let's just, I
And
don't know
and
if
just
it's,
and just for people listening to our interview, either as a podcast on Spotify or Apple or at the CFME radio show, please know that we'll try and make this recording available on YouTube as a podcast so that you can see what Dr. Christie is sharing on his screen.
yeah, hopefully that's working. So I don't know if you can see this come up on the screen now.
Yes, I
Um,
can. Yes.
but Helen, you were talking about, that kind of almost spiritual connection. And it just
Mhm.
happened I had this page open here. And this is when I was interviewing a lot of men, which was fascinating actually, because the men were really I was quite surprised how expressive, how open they were also to talk about their mental health, but the expressions they came out with and the way they were describing their experiences in water, I was quite surprised. I wasn't expecting that level of description from them. But several swimmers here noted a spiritual connection, especially when swimming solo. That's an interesting point itself. We was just talking about the group benefits, but some people just like to be on their own, and you can argue perhaps you get more of an acute connection with nature that way as well. So, Alex, despite not being religious, describes sunrise swims as deeply moving. I do early morning swims through the summer and standing in the sea, watching the sun come up. It's unbelievable. You can't replicate that in any other way. And then let's have a look. We've got here Ben found open water swimming enhanced his mindfulness and deepened his connection to nature, especially when dipping. So not necessarily swimming, he was just going and wading in and just dipping. In comparing it to running, he discovered, as with many others, that the immersive quality of water's embrace offered unique and grounding holistic experiences, reinforcing attachment to open water. Whilst Isaac appreciated the chance to connect with his own faith, when I do underwater breaststroke, I see my hands shooting forward into a whole new world. It's almost an unknowing, and I love that feeling. There's all that sensory side, but in the relaxing, meditative moments, it's a prayerful place. It's a connection with God. And so I pray or just meditate, have that stillness. For me, there is that spiritual connection. I mean, you've got Toby here, who admittedly had no faith. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But he could understand how other people could, drawing upon his own experiences of water immersion. When you do get in the water, your mind just empties, and it's that connection. I'm not a religious person, but you sort of think there's got to be something else out there somewhere. I mean, I just love this one from Adrian, who likened his immersion in water to a Zen-like mindfulness and a pure existence. It means a lot. It's like a fine gemstone. Look, just listen to these words he came out with. It's unbelievable. It's like a fine gemstone that provides luster, color, attraction, pizzazz. It's not the everything because we have lives to live with, multiple challenges, multiple glories, but it's something pure and seminal, an innate part of us as humans. Comes back to that biophilia hypothesis we spoke at the start. That pure existence. That's what its meaning is, kind of the basics of life, because you're in that moment just alive. You're an organism, the same as every other organism surrounding your body, no different. And then I think he elaborates a little bit more. He contrasted the act of swimming with floating, finding deeper meaning in the latter. And we've probably all done this, just had those moments where we just literally just let ourselves flop and float. Same environment, almost exactly the same activity, but a different experience. It's that purity of being, mindfulness, aspect of being held and suspended in the water as a floating organism that is the most meaning for me. Hmm. Anyway, I'll
And and
stop there.
and that is part of one of your published research studies, correct?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's well, actually, this one is out for review at the moment. So it's a study on men. I mean, it's been with a reviewer for about
Hmm.
9 months, but unfortunately, it seems to be the case these days that it takes almost a year to get the reviewer's comments back. It's just crazy, but various reasons for it. But I think all academics are slightly frustrated at the moment with the speed of getting journals published.
Yeah, well,
Um,
let's assume it does go through and
oh,
it
it
would
will.
be published. So
Yeah,
this would I can always find the link actually because
yeah.
I follow you on
Mm.
I think it's academia.e something something. I can't remember. There's a number of sites that where we can follow your
Mm.
publications, including
Yeah.
your own bio profile at the university. So
Yes.
we can always look it up there. But I'm surprised at how eloquent the
Wow. Yeah.
responses were.
Mm. Wow. I mean, it's amazing. As I say, I wasn't expecting it. And actually, the men going back to that study, so not just getting those lovely comments about that almost spiritualness, the mindfulness element coming through in their descriptions there, but there's also this very, very strong sense of joining a group as well that was giving them the mental health dividends. But the trigger for that was being supported socially and that connection with other people. And that came through much more clearly the mental health dividends than it did when I was interviewing the women. Now, women actually, by consequence, you could argue, were getting the mental health benefits from the social activity. And the social activity was really accentuated there, but more from a fun perspective, just having the joy, the laughter, the fun, that wrapped around a swim. So by dint of that, they were actually getting the mental health benefits. Now, the men who are joining these men's groups, like the Edinburgh Blue Balls and the Tyneside Ice Guys, they're actually seeking out that kind of social support to open up, talk about, the pressures they were facing in their own personal lives. And that came through really clearly. And there's a couple of photos I've got here, which be nice to share with the audience again. So I went up and interviewed a group up in Edinburgh. As I say, they're called the Edinburgh Blue Balls. So they meet at Portobello Beach on a Sunday morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. So I got there about 20, half past 8, 20 to 9. And I just started, just talking to one or two people. And I was conscious as I was having a chat with these guys, but there are more and more people turning up. And by the time it got to 9 o'clock, there was about 50 or 60 of these guys turned up
Un
for this swim.
This is
And
unbelievable. This
isn't it
you've got
amazing?
quite a
Yeah,
large crowd. This is,
yeah.
and I'm
Or a
saying this
group
because most of the people that I see in the water, most of them are women,
of
not
women.
men.
Exactly. And you're right to say that, actually. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but here in the UK, it's probably only 25% of men open water swim in terms of the overall, participation numbers. 75% of that open water swimming population tend to be women. So it's about, 3 to 1 in terms of, the split. Um, But here's a group that was set up ostensibly for men with a mental health objective behind it as well. So they turn up at 9 o'clock and there's this group photo. Everyone sort of, derobes, gets into whether they're wearing, board shorts or Speedos, whatever. And then there's this moment where they have this big group picture. I mean, I'll show you this other one. There's this moment where then it's, they wade in together as one, and that's deliberately done, but it's done that we're all here to support us, each other. And so it's not people just randomly walking in at any point. It's them all walking in as a group. And I think this is hopefully coming through now on your screen, wading in together. Now, some people just stand and chat, other people have a bit of a swim around. But it's lovely this moment where almost without necessarily having a signal to do it, that they turn, the photo's taken, they turn, and everyone wades in together. And then afterwards, there's chat on the beach. They go to the local sort of like takeaway tea and coffee cart, have a bacon bap with it or whatever. So it's this whole package. But they've also got this kind of messenger service as well, where after the swim and at any point during the week, if people have a particular problem that they need to sort of get off the chest, there's a forum that they can, you know, post a comment and find some support. So it might be someone's just really feeling down, and here's a way of getting that support in between swims, if you like. So I thought that was particularly powerful, just seeing how that worked in practice. And I've been to other men's groups when I've been researching this, where you might, and they all tend to do it slightly differently, but the ice guys, for example, you all stand around in a semicircle and they share, sort of like, you know, good news stories. So it might be someone's just got a birthday and they just say it's Tom's birthday today or something like that. Or Jack took part in the triathlon the other day. Or we've got a new member here. I remember them doing that when I turned up. They said, "Oh, Mark's here doing some research, but we also got Glenn who's just joining us for the first time." So it's done, really nicely. And then again, everyone just wades in, has a chat, and then there's a cafe afterwards. And there's another group called the Blue Mind Men at Windermere, and they do a kind of circle where everyone just shares whatever they want to. It might be they want to open up about personal difficulty they're encountering. It might just be that they want to talk about something good that happened to them in the week or whatever. But again, it's a moment of sharing before you have that shared experience of going into the water. So I thought those were really lovely ways of how people, how these groups can be really supportive environments and actually contribute to, really improving people's mental health over and above the actual benefits we can argue that we get from being immersed in blue space and in the water itself. Yeah,
Hmm. Because
powerful stuff.
the water itself has mood boosting
Mm,
benefits, whether
mm,
we're in a group or
mm,
going solo.
mm,
So it's the added community socialization. It's just another level up. Now,
mm,
many of us do this every day,
mm.
going in the water. And I think
Yes.
that's why we do it, so that every day we get that reset and we get that boost of feeling good without
Mm,
necessarily having to go for an hour run, right? It's just a
mm,
different way of doing it. Um, with these groups, it's I don't know if they go every day, but it's nice for them to have that extra support during the day when they have to face things that,
mm,
whether it's internal or external
mm.
turmoil, that they have a group to rely on. That's really beautiful. Now
Yeah,
you've
I
been,
must admit, I do love group swims, but there are times when, and you might be the same then, where it's quite nice actually not to have to be thinking about conversation. And you just
yeah,
want to have that mindfulness moment in the water by yourself. And I mean, most of the time when I've interviewed people, it's very few just totally just want to be on their own. Normally people like doing both, or they tend to the group all the time. They just love that group environment, and they don't like doing solo. Maybe, you know, typically it's because of safety concerns, but they don't want to be on their own. And you have to, it's worth mentioning here, you have to be very careful if you are swimming solo that you take extra precautions. So, for example, if I'm up in a mountain lake and I'm on my own, I'll swim close to the shore. I'll always
mm-hmm,
have my tow float with me. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So I won't necessarily go out a long way, or I might wait until I see some hikers going past and then strike out to the island because I know I can wave and shout and holler if there's a particular problem. So,
Yeah,
you get,
every environment is quite different, right? Like you've got an island there, da 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 da. Over here in with the ocean, sometimes we have to wait in between the waves, or we're just going to wait until we know there are more people around, then we go in.
yeah,
Or we just choose to go alone, which I've had to do. I'm not a keen one to go alone just because of the conditions. It's just a little bit more risky. So I always tell people, if you're going to go alone, try and stick to the shore. Make sure you have
yeah,
emergency phone number on your tow float.
mm,
Use either Strava for sending a beacon. So basically, someone else is following you exactly where you are. Maybe
yeah,
someone else is following you on Google Maps. Do not go somewhere without someone else not knowing where
yeah,
you are.
exactly,
And I
exactly.
mean, even if I had someone on shore, if all of a sudden they lose track of me, what would they be doing? They'd be calling,
Yeah,
911 in our country. And so there are certain things we know we're taking certain risks,
yeah,
but with time, we become better at assessing them. But that does
yes,
not excuse the fact that most of the time, we should be going in with other people because it is still considered an extreme activity,
absolutely.
especially especially when the water, like this morning, we are pretty
Mm,
sure the water was less than 5, as in very like
mm,
99.9% sure. We just did not have a thermometer with us, and we swim in
yeah,
the dark. So
wow.
these are not conditions where I would say go alone. You know, I got out when my partner was getting ready to leave.
Yeah,
So I was not going to be staying in the water under those conditions. That there
yeah.
are We get used to certain things, but it's it's never an excuse for not being safe, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. And the other times I've tended to go swimming solo is where I might be on a fairly busy beach. So, there's people around. There's other people on the water, whether in kayaks or on paddle boards. There might be a motorboat going past or whatever. So you've always got people around. So if God forbid, the worst thing happened, you've still got your tow float you can hold on to. You can get help. So yeah, it's being sensible, but being very sensible. But yeah, absolutely. Gosh, there's so much we can talk about. But
I
I
was
mean, you
just gonna
just
say.
mentioned.
I
But
was just gonna
one
say
thing,
we're running short on time here because I know
I
we
know, but
have
I was
to
just going to say,
go.
you mentioned one other element there, the night swims. And
Yes.
there's another dimension entirely, where you're not only in the water, now you can't see things around you, but there's something, I mean, you can see the stars and the full moon coming up. Those full moon swims are fantastic. Um, but again, there's something really special about a nighttime swim. I've only done two. But I remember the first time being really nervous, thinking, "Oh my God, what's this going to be like?"
And what am I
But
getting
it's
myself into, right? Yeah.
and watching the moon coming up behind the trees there. Oh wow!
Yeah.
And you're in the water and you're in darkness, and you think, I mean, obviously you've got your little torches on as well, but yeah, so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Just
um,
so people know, if ever people are thinking about doing that, make sure you have a tow float and that you're not alone.
absolutely.
And the first few months that we were doing this, we had lights in our tow floats so that we knew where we one another were. But then what we decided, we didn't even really talk about this, but what we were doing that then is to be in pairs so that if we were going to go further out, so then, we're never doing that alone. And if we're not directly one beside one another, we can still see one another. So something happened last week, the fog rolled in.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, really, we took a picture, we changed, getting ready to go in. We turned around and poof, the fog was in. So completely changed our plans. We still did not put a light in our floats, but we were not far from shore. So we have to really gauge the conditions when we do the night swims more so than during the day. In any case, we probably should book another, maybe
Okay,
come back.
I was just going to quickly add there because you mentioned a really good point, but we've been talking about the risk. And you can argue, of course, that it is a high risk sport. And that's one of the ironies. We spoke a bit earlier on about it's 75% women, 25% men. Well, traditionally, men are the ones who gravitate towards high risk activities. So this really goes against the grain, which again I find is a fascinating element of all of this. Why is it that women, and in particular older demographic, so we're talking typically 50 plus, are gravitating to what we call quite a high risk activity? Yeah.
I have a few leads in terms of answers, one of which is the cold water actually normalizes hormones and helps with hot flashes. That is absolutely for sure. I know I felt it, and I've actually coached other women on this, and there's a certain way of doing it safely, but within 7 to 10 days, hot flashes can be gone. So yeah, yeah, we're taking to the cold waters. So in any case, I don't want to. I know that you have to go, so I don't want to put you in an awkward situation where you have to run, and especially on the hip that is brand new, not a good thing.
Exactly.
But just before we leave one another here, so
Mm.
you had announced your retirement at the end of the year in 2025. So are you fully retired, or are you still doing research?
I am, but I am still, yeah, just finishing up a couple of papers. So, because of the delays with, reviewers and everything else. So we've got a paper on disabled swimmers, open water swimmers, which should be published soon in Sport in Society, it's called. We've got the men's paper. We've also got one which was a big survey involving 1,300 open water swimmers
That's
about
big.
incidents and adverse, adverse incidents and safety issues that they've come across, during their swimming experience. So in the last year, so we collected data about that. And the biggest factor, just give you a bit of a preview, which perhaps isn't surprising, was the after drop,
Oh yes.
where the body continues to cool post-water. And most people identified that as the incident, if you like, the most serious thing that they felt, post-swim. So, and for some people, they'd obviously overstayed their time in the water to the point where they were still feeling shivering cold even at night time. So they're wearing two or three t-shirts in bed. So they'd obviously gone past the point
Yes.
which was
Yeah.
sensible. Yeah.
That's not good. Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
good, but we could talk about that another time after drop and
Uh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, but
sort of.
basically, you are officially retired then, apart from the
I'm
left.
officially retired, so yes, three more papers to come. And that will make in total, I probably would have published about 10 or 11 s- studies on outdoor swimming. Yeah, open water swimming. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well,
So that's good.
you're leaving quite a beautiful heritage, and for someone else to pick those studies up in the topic,
Hopefully.
and hopefully
Mm,
keep expanding on it. Now, we will
mm.
see you in the water, right? You will continue
Yeah,
swimming.
yeah. I've got to get to Canada. I want to go in there where you are.
I know. So this is in Ottawa. So don't get me wrong. Canada's a big country.
I know.
This
Yeah.
pool that I have in in the background, that is about 5 to 5.5 hours plane ride away from me in Vancouver.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
my
in
goodness.
Vancouver, you get the palm trees. I keep joking about it because the palm trees are not looking very good. They're a little yellow because
No.
it is cold, but we do have palm trees over here, and it's balmier weather than the rest of the country. But we have the Pacific Ocean. So you get a little bit of everything in this country. But yes, please do come to Canada. And
Oh,
I'm hoping to go to the UK as well. I
oh,
was hoping to go this year, but it's probably going to be next year. Yes, yes.
great.
Or I do karate and swimming, so I've got some
Wow.
karate stuff
Wow.
that's going to be coming up. So I'll let you know for sure when I'm there because I would love to meet you in person and to go for a swim together. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's one other thing. This would be my final thought then to other people if they're because sometimes you go on holiday, even even like a staycation in your own country, and it's amazing how receptive. I don't know any other kind of sport which you can just talk to a Facebook group in an area that you're visiting, and they say, "Yeah, come on along, come and join us for a swim." And the only problem I find is that they tend to be these crazy people who want to swim at 8 in the morning or 7:30 in the morning. I'm going, why not 10 o'clock, But anyway,
Eight
but
o'clock in the
you
morning.
can always find swimmers.
Just so you know, we swim at about 5:30 in the summer. 5:15, 5:30 in the morning.
What?
Oh, I know, we're pretty dedicated.
Oh, oh
Oh,
dear. Don't do that to
goodness.
me if I come to Canada, will you?
Yeah, come to Canada. We swim early. Actually, come to Canada, and as soon as you get here, swim early because you'll be on jet lag and it won't feel like it's that early.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
Well,
well.
thank you so much, Dr. Mark Christie, for generously spending your time with me today. It's such an honor to have you on the show. For our listeners, if winter or ice open water swimming is on your radar or just open water swimming, I invite you to join local groups. Search online. Facebook has many, many communities. Learn about your environment, the water characteristics like quality, currents, temperature, conditions, and more. And I've got some videos that are coming up on the Coolest Journey YouTube channel regarding all of this and how to evaluate if it's a go or no go day for swimming.
Mm.
You definitely, definitely want to know what you're going to be getting yourself into. So thank you everyone for listening and thank or watching because this will be on YouTube as well. And thank you, Dr. Christie, once again. So now I look forward to our next chat. You're going to be more available now that you're fully retired. So thank you. Wishing everyone health, energy, and the coolest journey of your life. Bye, everyone.
Bye.